Good afternoon, baseball fans, and welcome to week 19 of Major League Baseball Power Rankings. We're coming down to the wire here. We're now in August, second week of August, and the playoffs are just a stone's throw away. Coming up in October here, I know, it's like 11 weeks of baseball left. 11 weeks of baseball left, so happy joy. We've got a lot of excitement coming along. The National League Wildcard is a wide open case. The American League Wildcard, not so much. So for a few items here for you, just a quick refresher. Power rankings are based upon season-long points. As a result, as you get towards the end of the season, there's so much established with so many games played and so many points distributed that it doesn't surprise me that almost half the league didn't move this week. However, despite that, we still had one team jump 6 spots and one team fall 5 spots. The best week was 7-0. The worst week was 0-6, and we'll get into those teams. But points are 3 for a 9-inning win, 0 for a 9-inning loss. If you go to extra innings, you split the 3 points with the winner taking the 2 and the loser taking the 1. Run differential is solely based upon weekly performance, not season long, in which you're taking runs scored, subtracting runs given up for that week, and that is your tiebreaker when you have the same point total. As you can tell, there's not too many of them, but there are a couple. So, this week I decided that I'm going to give a little more attention to our wild card fight, because with the trade deadline past us and the rosters expanding in September, and with the National League making things so interesting on the wild card front, I figured I'd highlight that as I was going through the teams. Coming in at number 30 is Detroit, with whom went 3-5. Dropped 3 out of 4 to Chicago, took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, divisional rivals, and congratulations, they finally hit the threshold. Remember last week I was telling you about how they're so close, they're definitely going to hit 100 points? Well, they finally broke through and hit the 100 point. They were like 94 or something like that last week, so the fact that they had 3 whole wins, which gave them 9 points, jumped them up to 100 point rank, so congratulations Detroit, always going to look at the positive, okay? Coming in at number 29, the Baltimore Orioles had an abysmal week. After winning the season finale last Sunday, they then go 0-3 against New York and 0-2 against Houston, and they got absolutely decimated by Houston yesterday. So I think they're just going to be happy to see this series end. Coming in at number 28, the Kansas City Royals, who went 1-1 against Boston, and Kansas City 1-2 against Detroit. This whole first row, I don't think any of them are in the wild card picture, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you where they are. And maybe during the off season, I'll give some recommendations if you are interested in learning about what each team can do to get better. Now, some of these teams need a ton to contend, granted, but can always get better. Coming in number 27, they went 2-6 this week, dropped 4 to New York, took 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. It's one of those things where, for some reason, they are competing very, very well against contenders in Philadelphia and Atlanta, not so well against New York or Washington. And this week was a perfect example of that, how they pretty much did point blank not well against New York, and then did well against Atlanta, so go figure. Coming in at 26, the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates dropped 3 because they had the worst week in baseball, dropping all 6 games they played this week, having gone 0-3 against Washington and 0-2 against Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh, 0-2 against, no, I apologize, not Giants. They went 0-3 against Milwaukee, they went 0-2 against St. Louis, and they dropped 3 spots. They've fallen into the cellar of the bottom 5 of the league, and because they had an abysmal week. This is a team with which provides so much entertainment. Watching them take on the likes of Milwaukee and win, and then go into teams like Detroit and lose, that it just, as a fan, hurts to see them fall out so miserably at the end, so close to the end of the season. It's just heartbreaking. Coming in at number 25, the Seattle Mariners. Boy, I'm glad I wrote some notes here. I'm just stumbling all over my tongue here. Seattle won 1-5 this week. 1-1 against San Diego. 0-2 against Tampa Bay. Nothing really to write home about. They're kind of just finishing out their season here. They are making things. They are in a position to play spoiler as their season allows them to be, but that's more or less what their role is going to be, as they have continually tried to push lower and lower down the power rankings, and they did actually manage to fall a single spot, but they weren't bad enough to fall like Pittsburgh did. That single win saved them from eclipsing Pittsburgh and getting into the bottom 5, but I'm sure they're going to try and figure that out before the end of the year. Just kidding. Coming in number 24, the Toronto Blue Jays, the team of Hall of Famer sons, had they're definitely a lot better at home than they are on the road. No question about it. They've fallen 2 this week after fallen 1 this week after. No, I'm sorry. I keep looking at the wrong stats. They've climbed 2 spots after taking 2 out of 3 from Tampa, and then taking 2 out of 3 from New York. Now, they won on the road against Tampa because Tampa has just been worse at home than Toronto has been on the road, and they've been strong at home, so they've taken 2 out of 3 from New York. I'm fully expecting that to be a split of a 4-game set. We'll see how that shakes out, but this team with which they have the offensive ability, and some players like Bo Bichette definitely have the defensive ability. Other players, like most of the lineup, need a lot of work on that defense, but they're getting the valuable experience they need for next year. Coming in at number 23, the Chicago White Sox are up 2 this week after having a 5-2 week, 3-1 against Detroit and 1-1 against Oakland. This is a team with which I had hoped for more promise out of them. They just don't either have the right pieces or don't have the right chemistry. They're definitely missing something. Coming in at 22, the Colorado Rockies, the team with which, when I saw them take home field games against LA, and then they also had the very first week, undefeated week of the season, I said, here's my pick for surprise contender. Well, it just so happens that Colorado said, hey, not so fast, and went 1-5 this week, dropping 2 to Houston, dropping 3 to San Diego, and said, we're just going to coast the rest of the year, drop a whole bunch of games, and we're not even good enough to afford to do that. We're just going to chase draft pick, which they've already had the draft lottery. So it's just one of those things where they are taking themselves out of even being a spoiler with the way they're playing, which is such a shame because I see so much potential in that team. Coming in at number 21, the San Francisco Giants, and interestingly enough about them is that of the bottom 10 on a board here, San Francisco is actually in the running. They're 4 games out of the second wild card, and they held on to Bumgarner and other trade pieces to make a run at it. And with that, they've gone 2-5 this week, dropping 3 to Washington, taking 2 out of 3 to Philadelphia. This is a team that is so teetering. They're far enough. There's enough games left that being 4 games back has them in play, but they don't have the consistency to make a run at it. They're definitely going to be in the playoff picture until they prove otherwise. But I don't see them actually punching through that barrier and making the postseason. The wild card would definitely be a wonderful storyline for a team that was so far back all year long. Yes, I just don't. I just think they're going to keep fans on the edge of their seat and then simply not make it. Coming in at number 20, the San Diego Padres, with whom are technically not eliminated, but they are not playing anywhere near good enough to make the playoffs. They went 1-1 against Seattle, 3-0 against Colorado, and taking out Colorado just shows that Colorado is kind of giving up on their season, I guess. They're not going to say that, but their play is definitely not showing that oomph and that passion going on there. Whereas San Diego, they have a lot of pieces. They've never been able to capitalize on it. They've had some good runs, but never anything consistent. And so they're with 6 games back in the second wild card. They're not far enough back for me to not consider them, because I consider anything over 10 games out not just done. They're 6 games, so they're still technically in the conversation, but they're way too far back. Too many teams to jump to actually make it. Coming in at number 19, the Texas Rangers. Went 2-4 this week, 1-2 against Cleveland, 0-2 against Milwaukee, and they're not even in the playoff conversation. They're just not, which is interesting because you have San Diego and San Francisco who are technically in the playoff conversation, and they're ranked lower. I get how that looks. I do. At the same time, I looked through the points all year long, and fundamentally, somehow, they have more overtime losses than San Diego or San Francisco, which gave them more points despite the fact that they're not in the conversation, and San Diego and San Francisco are. Also, bear in mind, this is in the American League, where there is less of a conversation about the wild card. These two are both National League teams, and because there are so many teams so close together, it makes sense that you have perhaps lower ranked teams that really have a long shot, if anything at all, of getting the playoffs, while you have higher ranked American League teams that have just no shot at hell. Coming in at number 18, the Los Angeles Angels, with whom are ranked higher on the power rankings than Texas, but have no shot at the playoffs. They're way too far out, and they dropped 5 spots over last week, going 1-5, dropping 2 to Cincinnati, dropped 2 out of 3 to Boston in Boston. So this team with which they are in a prime position to play spoiler. Can they capitalize on that? Can they make things interesting for everybody else? Can they keep people in your seat? We'll find out. Coming in number 17, the Cincinnati Reds. They are 4.5 out of the second wild card. They climbed 2 spots this week after going 2-0 against LA, 2-1 against Chicago, and 5-1 overall on this week. This is a team with which I felt like towards the middle of the season they started getting on a run. They could potentially make things interesting for the wild card, and they're certainly in that conversation. Do I have them pegged for actually reaching the playoffs? I do not. But I do have them pegged for definitely keeping it interesting, definitely playing spoiler, and definitely keeping analysts on the edge of their seat trying to figure out, are they going to put enough together to squeak in, or are they just simply going to continue threatening to stay in the conversation but never actually catch on anybody? I think the latter. Feel free to give me your opinion. Coming in number 16, the Arizona Diamondbacks are up 2 this week. They're 2.5 out of the wild card. They went 2-1 against Philadelphia and split against LA. This is a team with which, after getting rid of Greinke, I said that move signifies they're giving up on the season. The reality of the matter is, after going 4-2 after the trade of Greinke, they are saying, yeah, we got rid of Greinke because they got a bunch of prospects from a deep farm system, the pieces that we need, but we're still in it to win it. So chew on that, Dave. They're 1 game over 500. I feel like they're going to be like Cincinnati in that they're going to keep themselves in the conversation, but they're not going to make the playoffs. Coming in at number 15, the Philadelphia Phillies. This is a team with which really has me a bit perplexed about the conversation, because they're 1.5 out of the second wild card. They're definitely close enough to make a run at it. They are not too far back from the Braves. Yes, I know. I just said that despite them being 9 back. I get that. It's still possible. Having said that, the Tampa Bay Rays are also like 10 games back in New York, and I don't give them a shot in all living hell catching New York. It's just, I guess I have a lot of faith in the Philadelphia Phillies in getting there. They're just so close, and they have so much talent on that team. They've just never quite put it together. Hence, they're in the middle of the pack here. And whenever I've done projections as to who I think is going to be the National League wild card game, I've always wanted Philadelphia in that game. I just couldn't analytically justify it. Their performance on the field, and in comparison with everybody else contending, they just didn't quite fit the mold of somebody who showed me that they were in it to win it kind of thing. Just in terms of making the wild card and doing something with it. Having said that, I still hold the door open with hope that they can do something about it. They are mixed in with like 6 different teams that are a few games out of the wild card. Anything is possible. And before Phillies fans read me the Riot Act, I still think you can do it. At the same time, I'm holding my reservations out because the inconsistency of play over the second half of the season the consistency just hasn't been there. Coming in at number 14, the Washington Nationals. Went 3-3 this week and had a very interesting week because they went 3-0 against San Francisco, but dropped to the New York Mets. Division rival! A division rival! They have their second wild card now. If the season ends today, they are on the road in the wild card. So that puts them right smack, knee deep in the middle of the wild card because they have the wild card. It's up to them to maintain it. The reality of the matter is this team has been so hot and cold, so streaky. They would go off and take 3 at San Francisco and then drop 2 to the Mets. It's just, even if they do make the wild card, they're not going deep. And at this point, honestly, I personally have them pegged of falling out of the wild card and missing the playoffs. Sorry, Nationals fans, but I've been following every team this year, and while they're in position for it, I need to see more than what I've seen to be convinced they're going to stay there. Coming in at number 13, the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals are a half game back in the second wild card, and they are as streaky as anybody. They deserve to be in the wild card competition? Absolutely. They showed flashes of brilliance. But then after getting swept by the Dodgers in LA and then taking the first 2 from Pittsburgh this weekend, they are doing well enough to be in contention for the wild card. Not doing well enough to impress me or convince me that they're going to make the wild card. Coming in number 12, the Boston Red Sox are in more or less a free fall here. They are 6.5 back, and I've only listed that because they're not 10 games back. But they are so far back at the wild card, I just don't see it. Too far out, and yes, there are 10,000 teams competing within a game or 2 of each other to compete for the wild card. I get that. But you are also a lot back with only 11 weeks to go in the season, and you've dropped out of the top 10. You just don't have enough going on this year to make the playoffs. Sorry, I just don't see it at this point in time. Could things change in September when you go up against divisional rivals? Sure, but you're also talking about a team that took 3 out of 4 from New York in Boston and then got swept in New York. Then struggled to play Tampa Bay. Those are all divisional games. If the only teams you can beat in your division are Baltimore and Toronto, then we're not having this conversation. Coming in number 11, Milwaukee. Up 4 spots. Up 4 spots from last week. They went 5-1. They had a phenomenal week. They are definitely deserving of being in the wildcard conversation. They are. Why do I have Nationals at second wildcard and the Milwaukee Brewers second wildcard? I don't know. but the Milwaukee Brewers are doing better if it's 62 wins or 61 wins, so I think I might have had a typo there. Either way, they go in and take 3 from Pittsburgh, and then they take 2 from Texas. This is a team with which is still very much in contention for their division. They're only a few games back from the Chicago Cubs. They're 1 game back from the Chicago Cubs. So they're definitely in conversation for the division. That's what they're pursuing. Taking that division, whether or not they're on the road or at home, they're definitely in a point where they are like, okay, yeah, we have a wild card spot, but what we want is the division. And they're definitely in there for that conversation. And they're definitely going to have an interesting ride over the course of August, September, trying to catch and dethrone the Cubs, with which some weeks they help them, some weeks they don't. Coming in at number 10, the New York Mets. Up 6 this week, largest climb of the week. Had the best week of anybody, going 7-0, taking 4 from Miami, taking 2 from Washington, taking care of business against your own division. That's what you gotta do. For a team with which last week I didn't even know if they had the ability to contend, then they go 7-0 and put themselves in the conversation. They're a half game back in the second wild card. They've got a long way to go, but you know what? They had a phenomenal week. You can't ask for anything more, and you did it against divisional opponents. Way to go, Mets. Way to go. Awesome. You made it to the top 10. Welcome to the club. Speaking of top 10, coming in number 9, the Chicago Cubs. Going 4-3 this week, taking 2 out of 3 from Oakland and dropping 2 out of 3 from Cincinnati. Dropping 2 out of 3 from Cincinnati did not help their cause. Yes, it was on the road, but it's a divisional opponent. And while they're still a game up on Milwaukee for the division, it's by no means a locked point set there. Still got a ways to go, but they still have a very, very strong team, so we'll see how that comes along. Coming in, number 8, the powerhouse of the National League East. A team that went from low in the rankings, eclipsed the Phillies, and have just created distance from the rest of the league. Taking 2 out of 3 from Minnesota. In Minnesota, not an easy thing to do. Ask New York. Ask other teams who have done it. Not an easy thing to do. Milwaukee is definitely a very high-potent team, and yet they still managed to 2 out of 3. Then they lay an egg, go into Miami, drop 2 out of 3, because for some reason, Miami has Philadelphia and Atlanta's number. But it doesn't hurt them bad enough, because even though they don't move any spots from last week, they are still establishing distance between the rest of the league, and they're running. And it looks like if the season ends today, it's going to be Cubs versus Atlanta. Atlanta virtually has the East locked up. Whether or not they're playing the Cubs or Milwaukee, that still remains to be seen. Coming in, number 7, the Oakland Athletics. They're a game and a half back. They dropped 2 out of 3 to Chicago, split with the White Sox. A nice little Chicago week where they're in Illinois all week long, playing the Cubs and the White Sox. So what a fun little week away from Oakland this week, huh? They are a game and a half back of the wild card, and it's a team with which, because of their performance, I do see them in the wild card game. I don't know that they have enough to compete with the Cleveland or the Minnesota, the Houston or the New York. I don't know they have enough to do that. But they're definitely showing their cards, and they definitely look like a wild card contender. Despite the fact that they are still a game and a half back of the wild card. Coming in, number 6, your prize pick for the wild card, the Tampa Bay Rays. They did drop the 1 rank this week, going 4-2 on the week, dropping 2 out of 3 Toronto, taking 2 from Seattle. They pioneered the opener. It's the famous team that's built around the opener strategy, even though they have Blake Snell on the IL and Charlie Morton helping them out as actual bona fide, legitimate all-star quality starters. They are a team that I think if they made the wild card, they're better off as a second wild card. They have shown their weakness is playing at home, which if you can't win your games at home, that hurts. Having said that, you're also talking about last team to that have played strong on the road but horrible at home, but made it all the way to the World Series in recent memory is the 2009 Philadelphia Phillies. They were road warriors, leading the league, the entire major leagues in road performance, but their weakness was playing at home, and they ended up losing World Series 4-2. So just more proof to the pudding that playing well home actually does make a difference. Coming in number 5, the Cleveland Indians. They are up 2.5 on the wild card. They own the first wild card, but here's the thing: they are like Milwaukee. Yes, they're in contention for the wild card, but they want that division because fundamentally, while New York and Houston are battling it out for the first seed, whoever gets the second seed, whoever gets the third seed here, whether between Minnesota or Cleveland, are going to be on the road, but they skip the wild card. And here's the thing: the wild card is one game, do or die, win or go home kind of situation. Versus being on the road, I'm playing a divisional series, trying to take 3 out of 5 from an opponent. Speaking of the Central, coming in number 4, the Minnesota Twins, with whom have shown great power with the bats, much like Boston shows great power with the bats. But their defense, their pitching, has been at times suspect. At times they've been on fire. Other times they allow games, even at home, to go into slugfests. I don't know how well you win in the playoffs when you have to outslug the best pitching in baseball. But we will find out. Either way, these two teams are in a slugfest for the American League Central. And it's a very tight match at that. I see a lot more power with Cleveland, but I see potentially more depth with Cleveland. So we'll see how that works out. I say potentially because the debate on actual depth is so subjective. I don't want to say definitively one way or the other. With the exception of the top 3 teams with whom have actually shown with their performance they have significant depth. Coming in number 3, the Houston Astros, 77-40, leaders of their division and leaders by a wide margin. Had one of the best weeks of baseball, going 5-0. They've only played 5 games, but they won all of them. Taking 2 from Colorado, taking 2 from Baltimore, and absolutely decimating an absolutely dreadful Baltimore Orioles team. Coming in at number 2, the New York Yankees, with whom I keep on wondering, can they catch the number 1 spot? They get so close, and then right when they're just need another win or 2, they drop a game or 2. And at the same point, the team in first place is not exactly giving it away. They're doing everything in their power to hang on to it. But having said that, New York has shown extraordinary depth in there. They're bringing up 3rd and 4th string players from the AAA who are actually coming in and hitting home runs, getting on base, moving players around. You have such significant depth that I have actually heard many Yankees fans say, hey, those 1,000 players on the injured list, hey, let's leave them there. We're doing just fine without them. When your first-line starters are not missed, that shows you so much depth. It's just not even funny, okay? So, while they go through streaks, where they drop 3 out of 4 at Boston, or where they struggle to take games from Toronto, you have bad games. At the same time, they're really doing a phenomenal job with what they've got. You're bringing up Mike Ford, and he's hitting home runs. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. But that reminds me of the LA Dodgers, who have done the exact same thing. I saw them in a game, at home game against Colorado, bring in a player that day, coming in at the bottom of the ninth inning and hitting a freaking walk-off home run. His first plate appearance. Oh my God, how much depth does this team have? This is why they hang on to the first spot almost all season long. Yes, New York is 4 points behind, and Houston is 9 points behind. But fundamentally, how can you catch them if they do nothing but win? Win, win, win. They've gone not 5-1. The LA Dodgers have gone, 5-1 this week. 3-0 from St. Louis and 1-1 from Arizona. Are you kidding me? They're just killing it. But I've been saying that all season long. They are bona fide, almost a virtual lock for the first seed in the National League. I caution the LA Dodgers, don't take anything for granted. You're doing phenomenal this season. But if you let the egos go to the head, you could end up like the Tampa Bay Lightning of the NHL. I've been comparing you to all season long because the Tampa Bay Lightning during the past hockey season had an unprecedented year, and then they just flopped in the first round, getting swept by a team that no one gave any chances to. LA Dodgers are far stronger in baseball terms than the Lightning were, and they've also lost 41 games this year, and every team is going to lose 41 games, so they got that out of their system. Whether or not they make the 56 remains to be seen. They're just doing too well. So, with that having been said, I want to hear your opinion about what you think about what I think. So please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I would love to banter with you anytime and discuss playoff hopefuls, where you think people should be ranked. Anything you want to share. I love talking baseball. It is a thrill to provide this content to you, and I look forward to doing more of it. Speaking of which, if you just happen to have come across this video via the internet or YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel out. And as always, thank you for watching.